How's it going, guys? So today I'm going to show you a day in the life of me running 3 different businesses and give you an insight of what I do throughout the day. Now, I'm not going to show you any cringe footage of me pretending to be asleep and then waking up, or pretending to be making a cup of coffee. It's just all going to be about what I do from a work perspective, and hopefully this will give you some influence as well, and just to maybe encourage you to start your own businesses. So every day what I do is I always get out of my pajamas. Now, from what I've seen from people who do these day in their life and they are working from home, what I tend to find is people just lie around in their pajamas. Now, this might seem like a great perk because you're just staying at home most of the time, but when you're just lying around in the clothes that you slept in, it just doesn't really put you into the right mentality. So the first thing I always do is just to get changed, be ready to go out if I ever need to. So if you're someone who is trying to start a business, or if you're just working from home majority of the times, this is probably the thing that I recommend the most for anyone, because it just puts you in the right mindset throughout the day. So I've got 3 different businesses that I need to attend to. So the first one is my web design business. So I've made a video where I talked about that before. But basically what I really need to do in the morning is just to see if any clients has messaged me. And then the second business is my freelancing business, where I work with big clients. That takes up pretty much majority of my 8 hours. And then I also have to work on my rental business. And then after that, I also need to attend to any of the clients that I'm working with at the moment. So first things first, I will deal with the web design business to see if any of my clients have messaged me. Most of the time, I don't really get a lot of interaction with them. It is relatively passive. I'm just hosting a website. Sometimes I even just talk to them once or twice a year. That's it. Just send them an invoice and tell them that the website is due for renewal. So there are 2 days in the month that are really important to me. One is the last day of the month, and then the second is the first day of the month. So the last day of the month is where I send out all my invoices, and generally speaking, most clients would be on a 30 days payment term. For big companies, this is especially the case because they want to keep the money in their bank account for as long as possible. So a lot of the times when you're dealing with big global organizations, they will always stick to a 30, some might even be 60 payment term. When the 60 payment terms, I will reconsider whether or not I want to work for them, because if you think about it, from a 30 days payment term, you actually get paid pretty much 2 months after you've done the work. So say for example, it's now in July, I do all the work in July, I invoice on the end of July, and then I pretty much don't get paid until the end of August, which by the time it comes through to the bank account, a lot of the time it's actually in September. So on a 30-day payment term, you kind of have to wait 2 months to get paid. And on a 60 days payment term, basically you're going to be waiting about 3, maybe even 4 months for your payment, especially if it's late as well. And in that instance, sometimes that's just a little bit too difficult to manage from a financial perspective. What I do tend to find is if you're working with smaller clients, for example, when you're dealing with a lot of startup companies, or with companies where you're dealing with the owners directly, a lot of them would still have the 30 days payment term, but most of the time they will just pay you pretty much straight away. Whereas with the big companies, without a doubt, they'll always stick to the 30 days payment term. That's because they would have a dedicated finance team to process these payments. So whenever I'm working with a big company, I know I'm in pretty safe hands with my payments, and I'm not worried about them that often. The second most important day is the start of the month. I mentioned that at the end of the month, I send out the invoices. Now on the start of the month, which is basically the next working day, I have to check that the client has actually made the payments from the previous month. And I need to go into my accounting software to record all of these payments, just to make sure I'm keeping on top of all my admin. Now, if a client has missed a payment, I've got to decide, A, do I chase it up immediately, or B, give it a day and ask them again just in case they've forgotten. Because I'm not tight on cash, I will usually wait a day to send an email out, because sometimes they are just a day behind, or maybe the bank took a little bit while to process. I do give a bit of leeway with my clients, but there have been times where clients have consistently missed payments, and in that instance I have to think about whether or not I want to continue working with these clients. So just to give you an example, I do have a client who basically they are 16 days late now from the invoice from over a month ago, and we've been exchanging emails, and they're saying, oh, the person responsible for processing the payment is away, so we can't get your payments over to you. Now in this instance, you got to think whether or not you trust this client to process the payment, because if you continue working with them and they're actually in some financial problems where they can't pay you at all, then you're going to be out of pocket, and more importantly, you're using a lot of your time to work with a client who might never pay you. So from a business perspective, this is probably the most difficult decision that you have to make. Now with this client, it's the first time being late, so from my perspective, it's okay. It's also not a massive invoice, so from that perspective, I'm okay to continue working with them. So once I've gone through all my emails, sent all my invoices out, or checked whether or not I've received all my client payments, then I get on with the rest of my day. So if I have anything to do with my web design business, then I will try and get most of that done out of the way first. The majority of these are just going to be changing some text, changing some images. If it's going to be a big task, like redesign the whole website, then I'll do that in the evening. So I'll do all the little tasks first for my web design business, and then I will move on to my main client on my freelancing business. So on my freelancing business, I will deliver really specific applications, prototypes for them, and most of these are done in either Figma or ProtoPie. There have been times before where they've wanted me to code up a full HTML CSS website, but nowadays with Figma and ProtoPie being so good at making prototypes, there isn't really any need to code up a proper website just for a prototype anymore, which is really helpful because Figma and ProtoPie are just so much quicker to use compared to just writing loads and loads of code. So I've done all of the work that I've planned for this morning, and what I tend to do over lunchtime is I'll try and meet up with people in the industry, or either people who might be clients in the future. So today I've actually got a meeting with someone, and I'm just going to go over and meet them now. So I'm just out here having lunch with one of my potential clients, and John here, he's actually a local artist. Unfortunately, the person who is looking after his website, he is no longer available, so he reached out to me and asked me if I can help him with a few updates to his website and also potentially host it. And something that I'd like to do is just offer potential clients insights into my capabilities. So John was asking me a few things that it wasn't exactly difficult to do, and to be honest, he can probably do it himself. And the reason why I do this is because I want to make sure any clients I take on, they are going to stick with me for the foreseeable future. If I was to take John on as a client, but then he doesn't really see the value that I'm offering, it's actually a lot more effort for me to transfer the account over to someone else. So by providing just a bit of free knowledge up front, then it kind of stress tests the relationship. You know, if he's really unable to do it and he just wants me to take over, then great, I'm able to take him on as a client. But if it's something that he can figure out himself really quickly, then really he's not my main demographic of audience that I want to take on. You know, I want to take on clients who really don't have time or just don't want to manage the web design process at all. But because John does seems like he wants to take on this project, so I just give him some free advice and make sure we keep in touch. And yeah, if something comes up in the future again, maybe you can reach out to me. So I'm back from my meeting, and now I will get on with the rest of my work for the afternoon. And every so often in the afternoon, I have to attend to my property business. I have 25 units that I'm renting out to tenants. Most of the time, I don't need to interact too much. So my business partner, he actually operates the estate agent himself. And all of the day-to-day operation, he basically manages all of that. And obviously, him being the estate agent, he'll take a fee from it. So from an operational side, there really isn't much that I need to take care of. But obviously, if there are any tenants who have missed payments, or if there are any tenants who are leaving, then obviously, you know, we need to find a new tenant, and then we got to vet them. So I'd say probably about 2 or 3 times a month, just because we've got quite a lot of different units. We do need to have a look and review the people who we are letting to. And also things can go wrong within the property as well. So if anything does come up, then I'll take this opportunity to attend to any of those businesses.